On today's video, we are going to talk about what kinds of roles a free-to-play player can fill within huge alliances like JWM, like White Tigers, like Misfit Lion Division, like UCS, and many other of the top alliances. Of course, Legends Gaming being one of them. Free-to-play players do have space within these alliances, but they will have to work harder. And today I want to show you which roles you can try to fill in order to make yourself more useful and more effective within a top alliance without spending a dime. Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the Gekko. Today, let's talk about the roles a free-to-play player can fill in an alliance, not only on the day-to-day, but also on the battlefield. Over the next few weeks or something like that, we're going to talk more and more about things that free-to-play players can do in order to participate within the top events and actually have a huge impact over the alliance to the point where they earn their spot within an alliance that spends thousands and thousands of dollars a day. Yes, as a free-to-play player, you have to earn your place just like a pay-to-win player pays for his place. That's the difference between a free-to-play player and a pay-to-win player. A free-to-play player has to prove himself by grinding, working hard, and being useful, while a pay-to-win player mostly spends money, and the more money you spend, the bigger you get, the tougher you get, and therefore you can fight more and all that good stuff. So first of all, let's talk about the roles on the day-to-day a free-to-play player can fill in order to be part of a big alliance. The first one would be someone who has so many resources that a tier 5 player within your alliance can comfortably ask you for resources and you have them available. If there's one thing that I really think a free-to-play player can take advantage of, is the fact that some members within the pay-to-win community spend money on resources. If you're able to provide them a certain amount of resources without them having to spend money, you're therefore being useful. And that's a good thing. You want to be useful within the alliance. So my first advice for you guys is not only to have one account, but at least one more farm account. And I know a free-to-play player within one of the top 5 alliances in the game that has a whopping 6 farms that he consistently grinds on, and he reached a point where he's making hundreds of millions of resources a week and just spreading them across his alliance. When they were in Lost Kingdom, this guy healed up more tier 5s, gave resources for healing tier 5s, more than he ever spent on his own account. That was because he worked hard, grinded to the point where he had this structure of farms ready that can provide hundreds of millions of resources a week. Now, of course, don't forget that having more than 2 accounts within the same kingdom is against terms of service. Of course, there are ways around it, but I'm not encouraging you to do it. It's just a thought. The second thing you can do is prove that you're a hard-working member. Now, alliances of the top tier don't necessarily grind. One of the things that the leader of JWM told me once about a member who joined us from high from my old alliance was that he is not necessarily the toughest, biggest, strongest player, but he's a hard-working player. He told me that he sees that guy on the top 15 of honor for the longest time. Eventually, this guy migrated away altogether from the continent, and so you didn't see him anymore. But for the longest time, he was like top 15 on the honor points. And what the leader said was like, I want hard-working players like this guy, someone who can grind an event that can make up for the less amounts of grinding a more pay-to-win player does. So if you can prove yourself as a hardworking player by grinding events like the event that you get supply boxes from in Cleopatra Sculptures, I forget the name of it. If you can show that you're ending up way up top there because you're grinding the event, you can prove your worth as someone who grinds and works hard. You're the guy who's always there building flags. You're the guy who's always there joining barb forts. You're always leading barb forts. You're doing the day-to-day tasks. You find something that the alliance needs and you fill that need. Do they need someone to, I don't know, organize Ark of Osiris? I'll do it. Do they need someone to organize their mailing list? I'll do it. Someone to be the admin of the Discord? I'll do it. Any of that stuff, that's how a free-to-play player becomes part of a big alliance. Now you're gonna ask me, but how do I even get through the door? The answer is going through the system. When I played Lords Mobile a long time ago, I ended up being an R4 of the top alliance that spent the most amount of money for the longest time. After a while, of course, everything changed. But in the beginning, BRR, the alliance that I was in, was the biggest alliance for the longest time in the game. And the way I got in is I joined a sub alliance of an alliance that later on became part of BRR. So I started in Dawn 3, worked my way up to Dawn 2, and then I made it to Dawn Main, and then Dawn Main ended up becoming one of the 3 alliances that became BRR. The same can be done in JWM, in Misfit Lion Division, in Legends Gaming, and in UCS as well, and many other alliances. You go to the sub-alliance first of all. You show in the sub-alliance the management of the leadership of the alliance that you're a hardworking, grinding player willing to help and contribute your fair share. And honestly, not your fair share, you're willing to contribute triple the amount of a fair share because you want that opportunity. Now, why would you want that opportunity? You have to understand that when a pay-to-win player spends $500 on the game, $1,000 on the game, and drops a bunch of gold chests, that is filled with VIP points, with gems, with gold keys, with a bunch of different things. I mean, look at my AP and we just finished Lost Kingdom. How do I have so much? Because JWM grind barbarian forts to the point where I cannot use as many 50 pots as I get. It's absurd. Everything you see here that you can get out of a chest comes from the pay to win aspect of the alliance. But as a free-to-play player, you have to be able to fill a role that they cannot fill by themselves. Now, how do you fill a role on the battlefield? So we're going to talk about how a free-to-play player can benefit out of a battlefield in any situation, regardless of your alliance. In future videos, we're going to talk not only about the things you can do on the battlefield, but we're going to dig down deep into commander pairings as a free-to-play player, mostly epic commander pairings, for different situations. You gotta understand that you have to understand the situation better than anyone else. You have to know how to read the game better than everyone else, because as a free-to-play player, you have to be able to react to things quicker and better. So what are things that a free-to-play player can do on the battlefield? First and foremost, a free-to-play player can be a farms hunter. That's right. Another alliance that you're fighting against has farmers on the field. If you start slowly and steadily plucking off their farms consistently, you are that guy that is known as the farms killer. You are that free-to-play player who's bouncing around with Belisarius and whatever not, the Cao Cao or whatever cavalry march speed commanders you have, and you're just bouncing in between nodes, knocking people out of their farms, increasing their amount of wounded troops. At some point, your enemy is just gonna choke out of resources, because most people are not in my situation where they have millions of resources in hand. Most people gather and use it up or open bags. When they start not having resources at hand, they open their bag, and eventually they won't be able to open their bags when your tier 5s and them meet on the battlefield. So hunting farms is a fantastic way a free-to-play player can prove himself as someone useful, even in a sub-alliance. Even if in a JWM 3, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. You as a free-to-play player, go against our enemies and start destroying every single one of their farms. The management, the leadership of JWM will see that and reward you with a spot potentially by putting in the work. You can also be a buffer and debuffer. You know that your tier 4s are going to get slaughtered, and you want the tier 5s around you to benefit from your presence. By sending marches that have someone like Joan of Arc, or even like a Cleopatra, a Joan of Arc and Cleopatra, crazy madness march, you're helping your alliance by giving them buffs. A 30% increase cavalry units defense by 30%, archers attack by 30%, and infantry's health by 30%, and grant an additional 50 rage per second. You are absolutely doing what you need to do for the king. You're sacrificing your troops but you are buffing your tier 5s around you, and they will notice that. So being a guy who buffs or debuffs the marches around in order to allow your free-to-play, your tier 5 players to do more damage, to survive longer, to do more work, that's where you fill a role right there on the battlefield. Obviously, a rally filler is an easy thing to do. You have as many tier 4s as you can, you stick them in as many rallies as you can for as long as you can, and that's that. You have no idea how meaningful filling a rally is. Being someone who will be seen in every single report as someone who either reinforced the rally or was there from the beginning will get you a very, very long way within the alliance. On top of that, you can be a specialized, what we would call troop trainer. If you're a specialized troop trainer, it means that you're training one type of troop a crazy amount more than the others in order to be able to fill a specific role. Now, to reach this level, you're really gonna want to get in touch with your leadership once you're within the alliance and be like, listen, what kind of troops will be the most useful for you guys for me to, every time I boost, only boost those troops? I can tell you that right now, archers are very hot, especially tier 4 archers. So if you're boosting a crazy amount of tier 4s, archers, you might find yourself in a position where filling rallies with all your tier 4 archers will be the way to get into a top alliance. Now, we're going to talk a lot more in depth about these things, about like a list of which commanders you should max out first, how to get epic sculptures so you can get your epic commanders set up. And of course, once your epics are set up, we're going to go into legendaries a little bit more. But I want to focus more on free to play. And for that, we're going to completely ignore 99% of the legendaries for now. It doesn't mean that a free to play player cannot get legendary commanders that can be useful, but we're going to focus more on epics and how an individual with enough troops, with enough time, dedication, and grind can be a huge impact on a big alliance of spenders. Once you get into these alliances, things become a lot easier. You'll gain more gems by just being part of the alliance, winning the events, gaining from chests, gems, and so forth and so on. This will allow you to get more legendary commanders. This will allow you to get more books to get to that tier 5 level. It will allow you to progress faster. So, in conclusion, a free-to-play player can fill many roles within an alliance. Any alliance that went for tier 5 big boys only very quickly regrets it. JWM themselves, who recruited huge amounts, and even here have a minimum of, I think, 50 million power requirement, even they realized that the main alliance can stay like this, but we're going to have to start building sub-alliances where people can come up in the ranks and prove themselves and get to a point where even with 25, 30, 35 million power, and even less than that, you can get yourself in here because you're someone who's useful. Either by helping with resources more than anyone else without asking for anything in return and just doing it because you want to be part of the alliance. Either by filling a role that is needed, an Arc of Osiris organizer, an events manager, someone who is in charge of just sending mails and reminding things. As long as you find a role you can fill to help leadership and to help the members have a better experience of the game, that's already a great position to be in. If you can be someone who fills a role within the battlefield, like again, a farm hunter, a buffer or debuffer, a rally filler, or a specialized troop trainer, you are already making yourself super useful. Pick 2 of those 3 things I told you, find a way to get yourself there. And that's how I became an R4 of the biggest alliance of Lords Mobile, by beating the guy who did all the tier 4 push stats and all the mails and all the organizing and all the management. I did as much as I could so that our leader needed me to be in the alliance because I became her right hand as a free-to-play player at the time. I was the weakest player by a lot for the longest time, and nobody cared from management because they knew exactly how much I was worth without the power and without the money. Get yourselves into a lower alliance. Come into Kingdom 59, into one of our sub-alliances. We have 2 more days, or at least, or well, 1 more day by the time you guys are watching this, to get into this kingdom, get into the lower beginning sub-alliances, work your way up here, and trust me when I tell you, hard work is noticed and pays off. I'm the Gekko. I'm out of here. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. If you do want to come join us in Kingdom 59, come talk to Summer. Summer is the IC. Summer is right here. R4 in charge of diplomacy. Summer will redirect you exactly where you can go, how you can go, and start working your way through the ranks. Work hard, get it in, get as many resources as you can, hunt barbarians, hunt barb forts, be useful, stand out, and you'll find yourself in JWM very, very quickly. I'll see you guys sooner rather than later. Again, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff in the description down below. Discord group, almost at 1,200 members. Thank you all for joining again. That's in the description as well. I leave in the Discord group redeem codes from the game. Every time I get one, it goes into the Gekko Lounge on the Discord group. So you really want to be part of that. Link in the description down below. I'm the Gekko. I'm out of here. Again, thank you all very much for all your continuous support. Smash a like on the video if you like it. And we're going to talk more about free-to-play and low-spending parts of this game very, very soon. Hopefully, I can bring in some of the top tier 5, some of the top free-to-play players in the game to give you guys some advice. I'm trying to get in touch with them, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But for now, take care. Have a great rest of your day, weekend, whatever time, afternoon you're watching this video. Peace.